start to realize that there's a difference between being a yoga instructor and a teacher. And a teacher is someone who not just talks about, but who also embodies really at that molecular level the light that they're shining, the light that they hold within. And when we say the words namaste, they're not just words that we speak. It means that the initiator of the word namaste means like I'm resonating and I can feel the divine love and light within me. And it's only at that moment where I can start to begin to identify in unification with the divine light that I can authentically and honestly say, okay, the divine love and light that is through me, in me, manifested through actual physical light photons creating a greater biofield. When I feel that and I'm in that, okay, now I can say the words namaste. And now, only through this lens of perception, can I see, truly see, cherish, behold the divine love and light in you. So, we'll start with that. So today I had wanted to discuss a little bit about creating the pranic tube. Often if you go to a studio yoga class, you'll be cued into engaging the ujjayi breath, or in the English translation, the victorious breath. That's great, but what is the victorious breath? Like, why would we change it up and use that breath when we're practicing the physical practice of yoga? And what is victorious about that breath? We call it the victorious breath because breath in and of itself is not prana. It is not chi. It is not vital life force. It's a conduit by which we might enhance the prana within our own field by creating certain physical structures within the respiratory passage to enhance prana coming into the body. So the average American breathes 17 times per minute. That breath sustains their life. It does not actually augment the prana within them. So it's not a victorious breath. When we begin to engage the yogic breath, we're looking to breathe 6 times a minute. So more or less, if we can keep our inhales to 4 counts and then our exhales to 6 counts, that's going to get us to 6 breaths a minute. Furthermore, in order to be breathing victoriously, we have to create what some folks, Dr. Joe Dispenza calls it the pranic tube. Different traditions have referred to this structure in different ways. It is the engagement of certain physical muscles and certain ethereal energy centers in order to allow breath to move through the body in such a way that it becomes a conduit to prana. So something that I would, I have to make sure I'm not being indecent because I am wearing a skirt. So the way that I kind of think about it this way is, if for whatever reason you go to the hospital and you're on an IV drip, say you want to get antibiotics into your system and you get an IV drip. Well, the IV drip is administered through liquid, probably water and some kind of other soluble. Breath is the water soluble to the antibiotics that are administered through the drip. Do you see what I'm saying? So prana itself is not breath, but when we cultivate a certain physical stance and we're breathing in specific kind of ways, then breath becomes a conduit for prana, chi, life force. In order for that to occur, we're really going to want to engage the ujjayi, the Sanskrit word for victorious breath. So how do we do that? Well, it's a pretty simple step-by-step process to get there. So rather than thinking about the cadence or the length or the quality of breath, I really wanted to give you some tools to create the pranic tube. And it's only through the creation of this pranic tube that breath becomes a conduit for prana. So let's start off. I don't want to be too simple. Okay, there we go. Okay. So, whatever. Okay. So we start off in the pelvic floor to build up the Ujjayi breath. The pelvic floor, interesting. What the fuck does the pelvic floor really mean? I wanted to speak specifically to the female anatomy. I live in a female body, so I always a little bit hesitate to talk too much about the male anatomy, although I'll touch on that briefly. When we talk about pelvic floor engagement, the yogic tradition would be calling that like engaging the Mula Bandha. This is the first energy lock, very practically speaking, for women or for people with, a vagina and a uterus, that kind of thing. Here's what we do to create the Mula Bandha. We want to keep the rectum and the impulse to pee relaxed. So often we'll be told to engage like the rectum, the perineum, and the don't pee instinct. That's not really the Mula Bandha. I mean, it's a great start because this is a very subtle kind of a process. So to engage our first energy lock, the pelvic floor, that seals off prana so we can start to build it up in the body and then expand it through the biofield. Just like if you're filling up a bathtub, you're going to want to have a plug in it, otherwise it's just going to all go out, right? So we're going to put a plug in the base of this portion of physical self by squeezing the vagina walls together, keep the rectum loose, so that the vagina walls are actually like hugging each other, so that like you can, all portions of the vagina come into contact with each other. Keep the rectum disengaged. From the vagina, you move up into the cervix. The cervix is very similar to our throat space, like where the tonsils are. So you're going to want to swallow the cervix. You know what I mean. I think you get it, right? And then we move up from the pelvic floor and we smile with the ovaries, gently pulling the belly button back towards the vertebra directly in its reflection. Moving up this midline of the body, we move up through the diaphragm. The diaphragm is open. Shoulders are relaxed. The chest is open. And then we come into, so we have our second energy lock here. And I'm engaging this just by gently drawing, just like 2 finger widths above my belly button. I'm drawing that towards the spine. Come into the throat space. And, you often hear this create a slight constriction through the throat. As above, so below. So just like we swallowed the ovaries to create this lower seal, we're going to swallow, but not a complete swallow, to create a gentle constriction here. So what that is doing is that because the victorious breath is done just through the nose, we're also, just like we sealed down here, we're sealing off the mouth, right? So we're not losing prana through the mouth. We're creating a direct line from source energy. An inspiration and an exhalation comes through the nose. So I'm sealed off down below. I'm also sealed up here. So just as I swallow my cervix, a gentle swallowing of that space at the back of the throat. So this is my third bandha, my third energy lock, right? By relaxing the jaw and the face, I'm going to follow up to my fourth bandha. I've never really read about the fourth bandha. It does, I can assure you it exists. And so we're going to create a seal here, right? And so if we can consider the plumbing in, say, our house, there are portions of the plumbing and then they come to a lock. So we lock up the plumbing of the body so that water, if it were the plumbing of a house, doesn't spill out everywhere. We know that if the seals aren't super powerful, our plumbing is not going to work. The whole plumbing is just not going to work. So these bandhas, these energy locks, are the points where we... Okay, now I'm here. And now I've created a pranic tube so that as I begin to inhale, I'm A, not losing vital life force, and B, I'm amplifying life force to the point that I can actually start to grow my biofield. That's the electric magnetic and light field that surrounds all living things, rock, plants, water even, and certainly animals, and certainly the human body. Often if you're taking a studio yoga class, they'll say, and the Ujjayi, the victorious breath, produces an audible quality, something very oceanic. Okay, that's true. The sound that's produced, that would be a symptom of having now created the victorious breath. Victorious because it doesn't just sustain life, it allows life to thrive and grow. It promotes longevity of the body, it promotes intelligence, wisdom, tapping into innate potential of the human form. It's tapping into quote unquote junk DNA, which is just bogus, as we all know. Like, you don't have junk DNA, you just have unactivated DNA. We all do. And that isn't that sort of the whole fun thing about having this human body? It's like, oh fuck, I didn't even know I could do that, right? So let's get back to the victorious breath, because Lord knows I can talk. So I'm tapped in, tuned into the pelvic floor. Tuk, tuk. Second energy lock. Tuk, tuk. Then you're going to want the tip of your tongue, and you're going to place it on the roof of the mouth, just behind the teeth. So if I was speaking in English, when I say let, it's at the LE portion of let go. By placing my tongue here, I further seal off the orifice of the mouth, just as I sealed off the orifice of my vagina. Men, just as a parenthetical note, men, if you've ever done martial arts, you're just going to essentially draw the testicles, not the ball sack or the scrotum, back up inside of you, so that if you were doing martial arts, if you were going to get kicked, you wouldn't actually get kicked in the testicles. I don't want to teach that or instruct that, because I don't have testicles and I don't actually have the experiential basis for that. So when I have my tongue in place, right, I'm sealing off the mouth, sealing off the lower orifice, as above, so below. I tap in, tune in, and turn on to my fourth bandha up here. That allows me to inhale through the crown of my head. I draw breath down on an inhale. Fill my belly, fill my lungs. And on an exhale, I direct breath out, either to heal portions of my physical body, either to heal portions of other people's physical body by inhaling and then exhaling out through the palms of my hands, where we have these little energy centers. So anyone engaged in Reiki or any hands-on healing, that's Ujjayi breath is engaged, inhaling through the crown of the head, exhaling out through the hands. If I'm engaged in writing, which is what I do professionally, and I have to be able to basically on demand become creative, right? So I sit on the floor with my computer, I inhale through the crown of my head, I exhale through my hands, close my eyes, and you know, I write my assignment, or do the work that needs to get done, right? If I were painting, I would inhale through the crown of my head, bhandas turned on, Ujjayi breath turned on, and I exhale to paint. If I'm looking to breastfeed, I would inhale through the crown of my head, and I would exhale out through my breasts. So can never, ever fucking publicly admit this, but I did breastfeed my son for longer than anyone should ever admit to. And that's how I, enhanced the cultivation of the milk that he ate. And we can do this for anything. God forbid there's diseased tissue in the body. Inhale through the crown of the head. Let's assume the diseased tissue is whatever in the uterus. And then I'm going to exhale out through my uterus. So sending that prana out through there. So that's the beginning, the middle, and the end. Tap in, tune in, turn on. Now, all other subsequent breaths that we're going to get into, you got to have the pranic tube turned on. Otherwise, you're just breathing and sustaining not life, not enhancing life. So in further videos, my freaking God, Dude, I've been talking for 18 minutes. Holy moly. So, let's just do it together. So, I'm going to close my eyes off. I'm going to turn in, turn in, turn in. Hold on, let me get myself situated on that pillow. I'm not sure if you can hear me, but it's, yeah, I think I'm decent, yeah. So that was 3 victorious breaths. I'm hoping that the microphone on my phone picked it up and you could hear it. I hope that this was helpful. I hope that it's information that you maybe haven't heard in such a cohesive, coherent way. I mean, obviously, if you've been doing yoga with me in my studio space, you have. But maybe you haven't heard it in this way. Hopefully, some of it resonates. Oh yeah, looking good. Fuck. That was a joke. Yeah. So hopefully this was helpful for you. And if you do have questions about creating the victorious breath, send me a direct message. Private message me on Facebook. I think we're done here. All right. Love you guys. Bye.